In today's video, I want to teach you how to make cinematic looking videos. Now, I will put the word cinematic in quotes here because there are actual filmmakers and videographers who are actually making cinema quality content. So just know that whenever I say cinematic, that means any type of content that invokes an emotion or makes you feel something. Now, there are lots of YouTube videos online that explain how to shoot cinematic content, but today I will give you my tips and secrets to how to make your videos look more cinematic. When it comes to shooting cinematic style content, if I do have some story in mind and planning something in mind, I usually create a storyboard. And pretty much that basically means me writing down on a piece of paper the type of shots that I want to get and the way the story flows. But for the type of content that I'm doing nowadays, which is, let's call it street videography, not street photography, you can't really plan for what's going to happen on the street. And because you can't really plan for what's going to happen on the street, personally, what I tend to do is try to find interesting visual patterns, like interesting lighting or interesting subjects. Now, we just talked about interesting lighting. And speaking of lighting, something you need to know about is your weather. So if you're making a video or a story about a nice sunny day, you want to make sure that the weather outside is nice and sunny. And if you want to make a video about a rainy night, you need to make sure that obviously it is raining. Don't combine clips from multiple weathers and multiple days and try to mash them all together, unless that's the story that you want to tell. Now, the third thing that we need to talk about is gear. Obviously, you're not going to have the best gear in the world, and not a lot of people have the best gear in the world. Some people have gimbals, some people have expensive cameras, but a lot of people also just use their iPhones or any phone in their pocket. Now, for me, my gear is pretty much simple. I use my Fujifilm X-H2S and one lens, which is this, the 16-55 f2.8. Now, obviously, if I am shooting during the day, I am using an ND filter, which is on my camera right now. And if I'm shooting at night, I use a mist filter. The fourth tip in this video, and in my opinion is the most important one, is about framing and composition. And in my opinion, framing and composition for these videos makes or breaks the video. What you want to look for when making your compositions is visually pleasing compositions. And what I mean by visually pleasing compositions are compositions that use these following techniques. The rule of thirds, which is basically putting your subject on the upper thirds or lower thirds, or even centering your subject, using leading lines such as this tree, which leads the viewer's eyes towards the subject. Symmetry, which basically means the right side of your image and the left side of your image are identical. Reflections and shadow play, which can be done during the day by focusing on small details such as reflections through windows or glass, or shadows of people on the ground thanks to the sun. Don't forget that you can also use the frame within a frame, which is basically framing your subject in another frame. I personally use all of these techniques in my videos, and because of that, it makes it more visually pleasing to the viewer and invokes more emotion. Now that we have composition down, let's move to camera movements. Now, if you're in a big city and you want to show the hustle and bustle of the big city, you might want to make a faster paced video with quicker cuts, transitions, and whip pans. But if you want to convey a calmer and quieter emotion, maybe you'd consider shooting static shots or shots that are on a tripod. That way you convey the calmness of the scene and you let the action happen in the frame in front of you. Okay, so you've got your composition down, you've got your framing down, you know how to set up your camera, you know what gear you need. What about the settings? What settings do you shoot with to get cinematic looking footage? Your camera settings are basically going to change based on the type of story that you want to convey or want to tell. Now, when I'm shooting a quick, fast-paced video in the city, I tend to shoot in 60 frames per second, and that way I can slow down certain parts of my footage, and then I can speed ramp it when I need to give it this quick oomph or faster-paced feeling. And when I shoot calmer types of videos in the city, I tend to shoot at 24 frames per second, with my shutter speed being double my frame rate. Now, obviously, when it comes to color profiles, I highly recommend that you shoot in log. That way you can post-process and color grade the footage the way that you want, and you can push the colors the way that you want. But if color grading isn't really your thing, I'm going to leave a link down to my LUT pack, which you can download and use for your own videos. Okay, so now you finish your video, you filmed everything you wanted to film, you put your footage into your favorite video editor, and you edit your video, right? Well, don't forget about sound design. Sound design is a very important aspect of these videos. There's a big difference when you make a video without any sound design and when you add a bit of sound effects and sound design to your video. Now, granted, I personally do not do sound design all the time, and sometimes I do regret not focusing more on that. So make sure that you do put effort into sound design. Yeah, that is it for this video on how I make cinematic looking videos and content. If you like this video, consider liking. If you want to subscribe, feel free. And if you want to see a video on how I edit, cut, and color grade my own footage, let me know in the comments and I will make that video for you. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I'm ready, I'm ready.
I just want to see how it looks. Why
I'm laughing.
Walking like this? Want to be on top, ton.
I wanna run, but I don't. There's that thing. Okay.